Hi, and welcome to my sewing room. My name's Leah, and I'm on week 21 of my UFO challenge, where I've challenged myself to sew at least 15 minutes a day on my unfinished projects. As you can see behind me, I decided to work a little bit more on my blooms for Annabelle Quilt. I put my Pastel Dresden on hold just for a little bit. Last week when I left you, I was trying to decide if I wanted to add some purple wide borders or stay with the thin pink ones that I already had on there. Thanks so much for your comments. They really helped me decide. They helped me realize that I really did want that purple border, but I was just drawn to the idea of being finished with this quilt and the fun of moving on to another project. I think that's another reason why some of my bigger projects become UFOs. I'm ready to move on to another project. It's not that I don't like them anymore, it's just that sometimes I need a break from them and I want to work on something else. Being able to work on my blooms for Annabelle helped me realize that as well too. It was a nice break from the Pastel Dresden, and now I'm ready to sew on some purple borders. So I folded up my Pastel Dresden top and I put it right next to the ironing board while I wait for my purple fabric to come in. I didn't want to put it back in the box. I want this one to stay at the top of my to-do list, so it's going to be right in plain sight. And I got lucky with that purple fabric. I found a 2-yard print of pastel purple dot fabric on Missouri Star, and it's shipping to me right now. So while it's in transit, I'll keep working on my blooms for Annabelle. So let me show you what I got done this week. Wednesday, I sewed on columns 5 through 8 to finish up my rows. I put everything on the design wall, feeling really satisfied with myself. Then I sat down to look at the applique part of the pattern and realized I had messed up. My eyes skimmed over to the diagram of putting the top together, and I realized that these blocks had sashing between them, and I had sewn them together already in rows. I was so sure of how this top was supposed to go back together that I didn't even look back at the pattern. I just started sewing rows together, but I was wrong. I thought about leaving it the way it was and just start sewing rows together. But when I look at the pattern a little bit more, the vines go right in between where that sashing is supposed to sit. So I decided to unstitch it. Luckily, I hadn't started sewing the rows together, so I only had to unstitch every other seam. So I spent the next 2 days unstitching and then sewing blocks back together. On Saturday, I didn't get any sewing done. I was traveling to North Carolina to visit my relatives, and when I got there, I spent time visiting and I didn't do any kind of sewing. But I did bring my project box. And on Sunday and Monday mornings, while I was waiting for the crew to get up, I worked a little bit on the hand project part of this project, which is the circles. I traced some of the circles and the leaves on my templates and I cut those out. Then I decided on and cut out the fabric for the circles. I wrapped some of the fabric around the templates and even stitched some of the circles to each other. I didn't bring enough template plastic to cut out all the circles I needed, so I only prepped the ones that I had the circles for. I could have popped the plastic out and then started with the other ones, but I didn't have an iron with me to press what I'd already done down, and I was worried if I didn't get the chance to press them, when I popped that plastic out, they'd start to lose their shape a little bit. So I just did the ones that I had the plastic for. Overall, I spent almost 2 hours playing with templates and the fabric applique pieces. On Tuesday, I was back at home and I worked more on the quilt top. I got some of the sashing sewn to the bottom of my blocks, and I even got one of the columns sewn together. It's looking pretty good, and I'm planning to have the whole quilt top sewn together and some of the circles glue basted down onto the top. If I have a little bit more time, I'll work on the leaves and some of the vines. Now that I'm home, I think I'm going to use the instructions in the pattern for the leaves. It suggests tracing the pattern on fusible interfacing, sewing that around and then turning it inside out and then pressing it onto the quilt top. That might go a little bit better for me than trying to fold over the leaves and mess with those points on my plastic templates and trying to get everything to stay in place. That'll all just depend though on when that purple fabric arrives. The tracking number says it's supposed to arrive this Friday, so we'll see how much I can get done of this project before it arrives. Thanks so much for following along and for adding your comments. They really helped me out last week. And until next time, happy sewing.